There will be moments when the world feels quiet, too quiet. Moments when it seems like everyone else is living, and you're just watching life move past you. You begin to question everything, your timing, your progress, your purpose. And in those moments, I want you to remember one truth. You still have time. Not everything meaningful happens fast. Not everything beautiful arrives on schedule. Sometimes, the most powerful things take time. Time to grow, time to heal, time to become. You are not behind, you are not broken. You are becoming stronger, becoming wiser, becoming someone who can carry more light. Because you've walked through the dark. There are people who won't understand the battles you fight in silence. There are moments when you will feel invisible in a world that rewards noise. But silence is not failure. Waiting is not weakness. Slow growth is still growth. You still have time. You still have time to start again, even if you've started over 100 times before. You still have time to say no more to the old patterns that kept you stuck. Time to forgive yourself for the days you fell short. Time to walk away from what hurt you, even if you stayed too long. The clock isn't your enemy. The past isn't your prison. Your story doesn't expire because others seem further ahead. This is your life, and you're allowed to take a different road. You're allowed to begin again, with no permission, no applause, no map. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. Present in your healing. Present in your effort. Present in your belief that better days are still ahead. You've survived moments that were meant to break you. You've walked through storms that left you breathless, but you kept walking. That matters more than you know. And if today feels heavy, if your soul is tired, if all you can do is breathe, then breathe with intention. Breathe like someone who still has time to rise. Because you do. You may not see it now, but your life is unfolding in ways you cannot yet imagine. The delays, the detours, the disappointments, they're not there to stop you. They're shaping you, preparing you, making space for something more honest, more aligned, more worthy of who you're becoming. So take the pressure off. You don't have to be amazing today. You just have to be real. You just have to keep moving, even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, even if no one sees you yet. You're not behind. You're being built. You're not late. You're being led. You're not done. You're just beginning. And no matter how many times you've failed, no matter how many times you've cried, no matter how lost you've felt, you still have time to become someone new. You still have time to bloom in a season no one saw coming. You still have time to become the kind of person you needed when you were younger. The kind who speaks with purpose, walks with peace, and lives with fire. You won't always feel strong. Some days you'll question your own worth. But those are the moments when you need to hold yourself closer, speak kinder, rest deeper, because growth isn't always loud. It's often hidden in the small, quiet choices you make when no one is watching. And if today all you did was breathe, that was still enough. Don't underestimate the power it takes to simply stay alive when your heart is heavy and your soul is tired. Don't belittle the days you survived with quiet strength. They count, too. Maybe even more than the ones where everything looked perfect. There is a version of you buried deep beneath the doubt and disappointment that remembers how to dream, that still believes in second chances, that still knows how to begin again. You owe it to that version of yourself to keep going. Not fast, not flashy, just forward. You see, we're taught to celebrate the milestones, the wins, the promotions, the breakthroughs. But no one talks enough about the quiet victories. The day you chose peace instead of chaos. The moment you walked away instead of staying stuck. The night you decided to try again tomorrow instead of giving up entirely. Those are victories too. Every breath you take while healing is a seed planted. Every tear you shed while growing is water for your future. And every scar you carry is proof you fought and survived. Maybe you don't know exactly where you're going. Maybe the road is foggy and the signs are missing. But don't stop. Walking your steps are still sacred. Even in the dark, your path is forming beneath you. You don't need to be confident every moment of the day. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to trust the process more than the pressure. Trust the unfolding more than the fear. Trust that there's value in who you are right now, not just in who you'll become. And no matter how far you feel from your goals, remember, distance doesn't disqualify you. Delay doesn't mean denial. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not a sign of failure. It's just the space where you grow, where you're shaped, where you become more than you imagined. You are not just waiting for your moment, you are preparing for it. And preparation is power. So stop comparing your pace to anyone else's. Stop counting your flaws and calling them truth. Stop holding your life up against someone else's highlight reel. Your journey is sacred, your process is personal, and your story deserves to unfold in its own time, in its own way. You still have time to change direction, to shift your mindset, to speak up for yourself, to slow down, to start fresh, to rise again. And the truth is, the person you're becoming won't be built by comfort. They'll be shaped by resilience, grit, patience, grace. Every hard day you've endured has added something to your foundation. Every loss has taught you what truly matters. Every betrayal has deepened your sense of self-worth. Nothing has been wasted. Not the tears, not the delays, not even the moments you thought broke you, because here you are still breathing, still trying, still carrying your soul forward even when it's heavy. That is strength. That is courage. That is proof you are not done yet. And even if the world can't see your growth, even if no one applauds, the small changes keep going anyway. Not for them, for you. One day you'll look back and see that everything was coming together, even when it felt like it was falling apart. One day, your current mess will be someone else's motivation. One day you'll thank yourself for not giving up. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you are not where you were, and that matters. Progress is not always visible from the outside. You might not feel the transformation as it's happening. You might not see the small ways you're rising, but you're rising all the same. Healing is quiet. Growth is often invisible, but that doesn't make it any less real. Think of the roots of a tree. You don't see them pushing through the soil, reaching deep, grabbing strength from the earth. But without those roots, nothing above could stand. That's what you're doing now, becoming rooted in your own power, quietly, deeply, unshakably. And I know it's tempting to want proof that your efforts matter, proof that the pain wasn't for nothing, proof that the universe sees you, that your prayers aren't echoing into emptiness. But faith is believing in what you can't yet see. It's trusting that something is working, even when everything feels still. Sometimes the biggest miracles begin in silence. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come after the longest waits. Sometimes the path you thought was closed is just taking its time to open. You still have time to create something beautiful. Time to fall in love with your life again. Time to reconnect with the version of you that never stopped dreaming. Time to become someone that future you will thank. And when the weight of the past tries to hold you down, remember this. You are not defined by who you were. You are not bound by your mistakes. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to grow. Out of old identities, out of old habits, out of versions of yourself that no longer fit. You were never meant to stay the same. The you that was lost is not the you that must stay lost. You can find yourself again. In the laughter you forgot you had. In the quiet moments when no one's watching. In the small acts of self-kindness you once neglected. You are worth the effort. Worth the patience. Worth the wait. Maybe no one else told you this. So let me say it now. I'm proud of you for getting up, for continuing on, for being here. You've been carrying so much, the pressure, the doubt, the fears that keep whispering that maybe this is as far as you go. But they're wrong. You are not at your limit. You are not at the end. You are just at a bend in the road, a quiet turn that leads somewhere unexpected. Keep walking. Even when you're tired, even when it's slow, even when you're not sure what's next. Keep walking, because the next step you take might be the one that changes everything. The shift doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives in silence. Sometimes it shows up only after you've walked blindly for miles with nothing but hope in your hands. That's what you're doing now. You're planting hope with every breath. You're proving to yourself that your life is still yours. No matter how heavy the past was, no matter how long it's taken to heal, no matter how far you feel from where you want to be, there is time for joy, for peace, for purpose, for softness, for strength, for change. You do not have to settle. You do not have to shrink to make others comfortable. You do not have to carry the weight of a life that no longer feels like your own. This is your moment to choose differently, to believe differently, to speak to yourself with more love, to stop waiting for the world to approve of your healing and simply begin as you are, where you are. No map, no manual, just faith, just fire, just the quiet courage that whispers, I still have time. And you do, more than you realize. You still have time to forgive yourself for the years you spent doubting your worth. You still have time to heal the parts of you that you've been hiding. You still have time to stop running from the silence and start listening to it, because it's in the quiet where truth often speaks the loudest. Let go of the story that says you're too late, that you've missed it, that everyone else has moved on and there's no space left for you to catch up. That story was never yours. It was planted by fear, watered by comparison, and nurtured by a world obsessed with speed. But your story is not meant to be rushed. It's meant to be real. Real growth, real lessons, real moments of falling and rising. That's how you build a life that lasts. Not with quick wins or perfect plans, but with heart, with persistence, with presence. And don't let the timeline of others pressure you. Some people find their passion early. Others stumble into it at 40. Some find love young. Others find it when they've learned to love themselves first. There's no universal clock ticking above your head. There's just your rhythm, your pace, your journey. Honor that. Because rushing what's meant to unfold will only rob you of the joy in the becoming. The joy in the slow and sacred rise, the kind of rise that's built on depth, not just speed, on purpose, not just pressure. There is no shame in taking your time. There is no shame in starting late. There is only courage in beginning it all. You don't have to feel ready. You don't need every answer. You don't need the applause of others. All you need is one more breath, one more belief, one more reason to say I'm not done yet, because your life hasn't peaked. Your best moments aren't behind you. Your most meaningful connections, your deepest peace, your most powerful breakthroughs, they're still out there waiting for you to reach them, waiting for you to believe in their possibility. You are still unfolding, still transforming, still becoming. And no, it doesn't always feel beautiful. Sometimes it feels like falling apart, like breaking down. Like everything you thought you knew no longer fits the person you're becoming. That's okay. That's part of it. Growth requires shedding. Evolving requires release. You can't carry the weight of your old self into the next chapter. And that's not failure, it's freedom. So release the guilt, release the shame, release the idea that you have to do it all alone. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to not be okay and still move forward anyway. Progress is messy. Healing is non-linear, but your journey is valid even when it's imperfect. You are not a project to fix. You are a soul to nurture. A story still being written, and the pen is still in your hand. You still have time. Time to become someone who is at peace with themselves. Time to build something that outlives your fear. Time to speak words that align with your truth. Time to walk in rooms without shrinking. Time to make decisions that serve your future, not your past. Time to breathe deeply, to feel fully, to live honestly, because it's not too late. Not for you. Not ever. There is no fixed deadline for becoming who you're meant to be. No expiration date on purpose. No set timeline for healing, for rediscovery, for blooming. You were not sent here to be on time. You were sent here to be true. And truth doesn't always follow a clock. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it unfolds in the shadows before it ever sees the light. And sometimes it shows up in pieces, tiny, quiet revelations that whisper, "There's more in you than you've allowed yourself to see." You still have time to believe that. Time to trust that your softness is not weakness. That your emotions are not flaws. That your past is not a life sentence, but a stepping stone. You still have time to step forward with trembling hands and say, "I'm scared, but I'm showing up anyway." That kind of courage, the quiet kind, that's what creates real change. Not shouting, not perfection, but the vulnerable decision to stay in the fight, even when your heart is bruised and your vision is blurred. Your journey has never been about speed. It's about direction. And today, even if all you've done is take one small step forward, you're moving in the right direction. You are learning how to hold space for your own heart, how to carry your past without letting it control you, how to face uncertainty without giving in to fear. And if you feel tired, that's okay. You're allowed to feel the weight of everything and still believe in something better. Exhaustion doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've been strong for too long without rest. So breathe. Slow down, come back to your center. You're not running out of time. You're realigning, recalibrating, finding the pace that belongs to you. The life you want, the peace, the strength, the clarity, it's not out of reach. It's already inside you, waiting to be chosen, waiting for you to stop rushing and start listening. To your body, to your soul, to the still voice that says, "We're not done yet." There's more to this story. You are not what the world told you to be. You are more than the roles you've played, more than the labels you've been given. You are not your worst day. You are not your lowest point. You are not the version of yourself you outgrew but were too afraid to release. You are becoming, and becoming is messy. But mess isn't the opposite of meaning. Often it's the birthplace of something sacred. Your pain has shaped your depth. Your setbacks have refined your resilience. And your detours, the ones that broke your heart, are leading you somewhere better. So don't rush the process. Don't shame the path. Don't believe the lie that you're too far gone, because you still have time. Time to rebuild with better tools. Time to rest without guilt. Time to become someone you truly admire. Not because the world applauds you, but because you finally see yourself clearly. That's the real win. Not likes, not status, not timelines, but self-acceptance, quiet confidence, inner freedom, peace. You don't need to wait for perfect circumstances to begin again. Begin here. Begin tired, begin unsure, begin anyway, because action creates clarity, and movement, even the smallest kind, breaks the chains of stagnation. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to grow beyond what they expected. You are allowed to want more, not out of greed, but out of a deep knowing that your life has more in it, more beauty, more strength, more depth, more purpose, and it's not too late to find it. It's not too late to feel it. It's not too late to live it. You are not broken, you are breaking open. And that's different, because breaking open allows the light to reach places in you that darkness has kept hidden for too long. You are not shattering, you are shedding. And every layer that falls away brings you closer to the truth of who you really are. Don't be afraid of these cracks in your story. Don't hide the parts of you that tremble when the wind changes. It's those very places, the tender ones, the scarred ones, where strength is born, where wisdom lives. This world might have taught you that you have to be unshakable to be worthy, that you need to have your life together before you deserve love, respect, peace. But that's a lie. You are worthy even in the becoming, especially in the becoming. Because the truth is, the people who inspire us the most are rarely the ones who never fell. They're the ones who stood up when it was hardest to rise. The ones who cried and kept going. The ones who doubted and still dared. The ones who kept their hearts open even when it felt safer to shut them down. That's what you're doing. Every single day you wake up and try again, that's your power. Every moment you face the fear and still choose to speak, to move, to hope, that's your bravery. And no one else needs to see it for it to be real. No one needs to validate your effort for it to matter. The world will try to measure you by progress charts, likes, followers, titles, money. But you are not numbers. You are soul. You are light. You are story, and your story isn't over. There is a new chapter waiting for you. And no, it won't always be easy, but it will be honest. And honest is more important than easy. Because real growth is born in the truth of where you've been, the truth of what you've survived, the truth of what you still carry. So carry it. But carry it with grace. Carry your pain like a seed, not a stone. A seed will take root and grow something new. A stone will only weigh you down. You get to choose every day. You get to choose how you speak to yourself, how you interpret your past, how you step into your future. And no, you didn't choose everything that happened to you, but you get to choose what you build from here. You get to write the next page. You get to pick up the pen with trembling hands and say, this is not how my story ends, because you still have time. Time to love better. Time to love deeper, starting with yourself. Time to leave what drains you and walk toward what restores you. Time to break cycles, to heal patterns, to be the one in your family who did it differently. Don't end. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it gets lonely. Yes, there will be days when you question everything, including yourself. But stay with it. Stay in the process. Stay in your body. Stay in the work, not because it's glamorous, but because it's yours. This is your life, your chance, your path, and there is no one way to get there. There is only your way, made of detours and tears and sunrises and shaky beginnings and sudden breakthroughs and quiet prayers, whispered when no one else hears. All of that is holy. All of that is part of it, so don't give up on the middle just because it doesn't look like the end you imagined. You still have time, and this is just the beginning. Asterisk, you still have time to come back home to yourself, to return to the voice you silenced, the dreams you abandoned, the softness you traded for survival. There's no shame in what you had to do to make it this far, but you're allowed to evolve beyond it now. You don't have to live in defense mode anymore. You don't have to brace for impact with every step you take. This chapter isn't about surviving, it's about thriving. It's about walking without armor, loving without fear, resting without guilt. You've carried the weight of other people's expectations for so long, now it's time to carry only what aligns with your truth. You get to choose how you live this life, not based on fear, but based on what sets your soul on fire. And you don't need anyone's permission to change, not your past's permission, not your family's, not your old selves. This moment right here, right now, is your green light. You are not the same person you were before. That's not failure, that's growth. Growth is supposed to feel unfamiliar. It's supposed to feel strange when you no longer fit the version of yourself that tolerated so little just to keep the peace. That's not you anymore, and I know it hurts to outgrow people. It hurts to walk away from what once felt like home. But sometimes, what once felt like home was actually a cage, a version of comfort that kept you small. Now, you're choosing freedom, and freedom is not always neat. It's not always understood, but it's yours and it's worth it. So walk tall. Even if your knees are shaking, walk forward. Even if the map is blurry, because your next chapter begins with your decision. To believe that you still have time. Time to explore the world with open eyes. Time to rebuild trust in others, in life, in yourself. Time to release the people who love you with conditions. Time to embrace the version of you who refuses to settle. Let the world call you unrealistic. Let them say you've changed. That's okay. You were never meant to stay who you were yesterday. You were born to evolve, born to rise, born to rewrite your story as many times as it takes. There is no final draft, only constant refinement, only truth and intention, only this breath, and the next one, and the one after that. You are not chasing time. You are becoming in time. And every time you choose presence over panic, self-compassion over shame, grace over perfection, you heal something. You heal the child who wondered if they were ever enough. You heal the adult who forgot they were allowed to dream again. You heal the future that was once blurred by fear. And no, healing isn't always poetic. Sometimes it's just sitting in silence, breathing through the ache, and choosing not to go numb. That counts too. That's brave too. You still have time to create a life that doesn't exhaust you, a life that doesn't feel like a performance, a life that feels like home to your heart, your mind, your spirit. And maybe the timeline didn't go the way you thought it would. That's okay, because maybe, just maybe, this detour was the only road that could have led you back to yourself. You still have time, and you're doing better than you think.